welcome back to another Majora's Mask project making video. I am excited to let you guys know that we are up to the 20th mask of the series, which means there is only 11 left. That is insane to me. I wanted to say a big thank you guys for all the support, especially in the last 20 weeks, because I've been making at least one a week. That, yeah, crazy. Oh my God, I'm just shocked. Huge thank you to everyone who supported me across all platforms on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. I even have been posting a lot to Instagram, and that's been doing well over there, so thank you all so much. I'm assuming you guys can obviously tell by the thumbnail and title of this video, but I am happy to announce, thanks to many comments from you guys, the 20th mask of the series is the Great Fairy Mask. I was excited to do this one, but also low-key scared. The Great Fairy Mask is one of the most prominent masks in the game, and it's also one of the ones that you can get fairly early on in the game. It was a bit hard to kind of wrap my head around an idea on how to make it because the hair is floaty on the mask. I was kind of thinking maybe some wire and some foil and foam clay for that. And also she's covered in leaves and vines and stuff. I don't want to make it look like it's too covered with vines and leaves in the end product, but at the same time, I don't want to not have enough leaves. But I feel like those two parts are probably the scariest part of this mask making. To get the mask within the game, you basically go to the fairy fountain that is the Clock Town, and you come across a fairy that needs to be put together. You have to find all her fairies to bring her back together, and once you do, she gives you her mask. This mask will help you in each dungeon and each area to find different fairies, and every time you wear the mask, it will basically glow a little bit or sparkle a little bit, so it will tell you that a fairy is nearby. Once you collect all the fairies in each area, you put back together each great fairy for that area. You get items or magic bonus things. Very exciting. I love this mask. I love this game. I don't know if you can tell. Basically, this mask was super helpful in my playthrough, so I have been putting it off a little bit because I was nervous that I was going to mess it up. I hope I do it justice. I really hope you guys like it. Once again, thank you all so much for the support, and without further ado, I'll let you guys get to the mask making.
I decided to stream the beginning of the making of this mask, so you will see me talking in the first part of this video. I grabbed my mask base and I decided to slim down the face because the Great Fairy has more of a pointed chin. Her chin also doesn't jut out, so I decided to cut the chin off the mask base, and of course decided to cover up the eye holes using masking tape. She also has a slightly bigger nose than the mask base, so I just grabbed some foil and I started to shape a mask down. Looking back, I think I made the mask way too big, or at least way too wide. Most Legend of Zelda characters do have a big nose, however, I slowly overestimated how big the Great Fairy's one actually was. Once I was happy with the shape and size at that time, I glued it to the mask base with hot glue. The next thing that I wanted to do was get started on the hair. Of course, the Great Fairy needs a hairline. Her hair is tied up. So I grabbed some foil and I started to create the base of her hair. It was basically like a round disc thing with wings, which I then hot glued and taped to the mask base. I also wanted to start on the ponytails or the plaits, or, well, they're not really plaits, but the long floaty parts of her hair. I wanted it to be structurally sound as well, so I grabbed some of the wire that I've used for past masks, cut some holes in the mask base, one at the top and one down the side, on each side. Then I threaded the wire through and I just started to cross it over. You definitely can use more wire at this point if you want to make it a little bit stronger, but I just thought the 2 strands would do for each ponytail. I then twisted them together so they would hold, and just repeated the process for all 3. I was pretty happy with how this was coming along. Also with the shape of the wire, I just needed to make sure that the wire didn't move too much, so I did use hot glue and obviously masking tape to hold it in place. It was then time to start covering it in foam clay. I didn't want to do too much, but I basically covered the face and the hair. Tried to make the hair a little bit thicker as well so the hairline was a bit more obvious. And then of course I wet it with water so it would dry smoother, and I left that overnight to dry. The next morning, this is what it looked like. It was a little bit bumpy and I didn't notice till later, but the face is kind of uneven. There's a bit of a lump on the right side of the face. Well, our right, her left. Anyway, the next day I started to actually shape the hair, so I grabbed more foil and I started to mold the top of the hair and make some long round clumps for the strands. I also used some masking tape just to kind of hold it in place. It looks a bit excessive, but this masking tape is not strong at all. I then started to mold 3 more clumps of foil, separate from the hair because I just wanted to get the points correct. And then it was time to attach it to make the hair look longer. To attach it, I just grabbed more foil and I just wrapped it around, hoping that the shape would hold, and just did that for all 3 strands. I did go back afterwards and made sure to cover every part in hot glue, or at least under what needed it. So basically the gap between the strands, where it attaches to the head, any excess parts of foil that might have just been flapping around, and the very ends so they kind of stayed pointed. After I was happy with the strands and how they looked and the shape of it, it was basically time to start covering them in foam clay again. I patched up some holes around the face, including around the hairline, and then I started to cover each strand in foam clay and also underneath where the wire connects to the foil. I was hoping adding some foam clay underneath here would also make it just a little bit more structurally sound, a little bit more stronger, and hopefully the wire would not move underneath the strands. I didn't get to record all of this because my phone was actually slowly dying. I always do this after work, so I come home, forget to charge my phone, start on making the masks, and then just never have enough battery to record absolutely everything. But this is what it looks like with at least 2 of the strands covered with foam clay. I once again smoothed it down with water and then left it overnight to dry. Before I got started on the hair again though, I wanted to work on the Grey Fairy's accessories. She is absolutely covered in vines and leaves, so I needed to make some vines and leaves. I grabbed some 2mm foam and I just started to draw a whole bunch of leaf patterns. I think in total I counted 100 or 101, just as many as I could possibly fit on those sheets. I also drew just some vine shapes, just some swirls and stuff, just because even though you can see some of the vines on the picture, I needed something to actually stick the leaves to. Once I was happy with the shapes, I then started to paint them. I mixed up some green paints. I got 2 shades, a darker and a lighter. And then I also mixed in some PVA glue so it would completely seal the foam. I've had it in the past where I've painted some foam and it just kind of sunk into it and didn't look good. So you always add PVA glue to seal it. I did about 3 coats of paint on this. Then I grabbed my Stanley knife and my cutting board and I started to just cut out all the shapes. This was the most tedious part of the entire mask. It also helped that I had an empty pot to just kind of pop the leaves in when I was done. And then it was time to cut out the vines. The vines were also a lot harder. I made the mistake of making a bunch of swirls, and those are super hard to cut out with a Stanley knife, but I got through it eventually. It was very late at night. I then drew on the features of the fairy's face, and I decided kind of last minute that I wanted to cut out the holes in the eyes so I could see through this mask. A lot of people comment that they would like masks to be more see-through, which is hard because I kind of go more for accuracy rather than seeing because they're more for decor, but I thought why not. I also then grabbed some foam clay, added the mole, lips and eyelids. Those details then dried overnight, and the next morning I went back and added some hair with foam clay to the mask. It only covered the top of the head, didn't go all the way down the strands, but I basically wanted it to look more like hair, so I just put a thin layer of foam on and ran my nail through it multiple times to make it look like strands. I then left that to dry and then grabbed all of my leaves, all of my vines, laid them out and decided to add a lighter shade of green just to make them pop a little bit more. This is me just going through and painting all of the individual leaves and individual vines. it was once again one of the more tedious parts of making this mask. I also didn't do them perfectly because I knew that I would layer them on top of each other, so I basically just did a line down the middle of the leaves and coloured the centre of each vine. I then let that dry for a little bit and I returned to the hair. Or well, the whole mask. The extra hair details were dry at this point because I left it in the sun, so I was able to grab the mask and start to paint it. I mixed up a few different shades, one for the skin and one for the hair, though I did think that the first layer of the skin colour was a little bit too dark, so I did lighten it for the second. As well as the hair shade, I also mixed up a couple of different pinks and reds for the features on the Great Fairy's face. The lips and eyes were the same colour pink, and the hair and the eyelids were another colour pink. There were also some spiky details around the eyelids, which kind of looked a little bit like fire. They were more of an orange colour. So I started to paint all of those before realizing I also think I made the hair a little bit too dark. I then went through and did a second coat on all of the features and the hair, making sure that I liked the newer colors and just making everything a little bit bolder. I also do want to note that the foam clay wasn't the initial idea for the Great Fairy hair. I did want to figure out how to use the wire to make it more floaty, maybe use foam clay or just foil, and then initially I was going to attach strands of wool to the top of the foam clay to make it look like actual hair. I've used wool as hair for cosplays in the past, especially for my Twilight Princess Zelda helmet, and I thought it would look kind of cute, kind of make her look a bit more doll-like with the wool for the hair. However, I ran out of time. I realized I didn't have the right shade of pink for the wool, and foam clay has worked for the masks in the past, so I thought, why not? And that's why the hair is the way that it is for this mask. After painting all the hair and everything, I went through with some blacks to add on more details with the features, did some white for the eyes, also drew on the nose and the smile for the mouth, before going back to the hair and adding some lighter shades of pink to make it look more like strands. I mixed up 2 lighter shades of pink and then just did some random lines down each strand of hair to kind of make it more cohesive, especially because the foam clay strand hair, the extra little details that I added on top, did not continue down the strands. I then grabbed some of my paint markers and I just did some pink lines down amongst all of the paint to hopefully give the illusion that all of the details were cohesive. I don't know, it ended up quite rough, but I was pretty happy with it as a final result. There were only a couple of more things to do for this mask, including adding some mesh behind the eyes so it could be see-through, making the chin a little bit more thinner. I did have to cut it down because it wasn't as pointy as I would have liked, and tying the elastic onto it so I could literally wear it on my head. It helped to make it wearable and also for me to try it on because at this point in time I didn't know whether it was actually wearable on my head. I didn't know if the weight of it was imbalanced. But putting it on the mannequin head also made me a little bit more certain that things were going okay. It was also now time to add all of the vines to the head. So I grabbed the hot glue gun and I started to glue all the vines on top of the head and also wrap a bunch around each strand of hair. They're located in different areas on the strands, but it didn't look too bad once I was done. I then continued with the leaves and I hot glued each individual leaf to a vine on the head. I also didn't record all of this because my battery was going low here as well. This was another tedious task, but it was one of the last things that I had to do, so I was just steamrolling right through it. Once all the leaves were attached and I was happy with the placement, the last little thing that I wanted to do was just use my eyeshadow palette and add some shading around the eyes, around the nose, under the nostrils, and along the cheekbones just to contour it a little bit and make it kind of more pointy looking. And this is the Great Fairy mask done. Please let me know if you like how it turned out. Feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along with the project, and let me know in the comments which mask you would like to see next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!